I'm literally about to stab someone. I'm about to beat the shit out of beat someone to death with their own sandwich. Oh my god, I was so.
That's when you're like, I'm sorry, sir. We're all out of cups, and I can't bake any new ones at this point.
Oh my gosh, it had me livid. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 80 of the Thought Patrol podcast. We are getting that much closer to our centennial. I don't know where I was going with that. Our centennial
thing.
Yeah, our centennial anniversary where we will all dress up. There'll be video, right? And we all dress up as our favorite cosplays, and we suck each other's dick for 2 hours, and that's all the audio too. So get excited for that. That'll be coming on the 100th episode, and I'm totally not fucking with you right now. Just wait. So. Oh my god, the paper I usually use to take notes, I was reaching for it and I forgot we did our last year was our bests, so this thing is literally covered in different things and franchises that we were trying to figure out which one we thought was the best of the year. And that was a plug. If you did not hear last week's episode and you would like to know what we thought the best 3 things from games, movies, anime, I think we did at least one music thing over the year, feel free to check that out. Again, that was episode 79. It was quite a fun one indeed. But now we are in the present. We're going to go into episode 80. This week we're going to be... There's really not a lot going on, guys. And I'm sure you've heard this, or you know this if you follow gaming news. There really isn't much going on as we've kind of crest over into the new year. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Twitch, actually, this year, this episode. I'm fucking up so badly. This episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the changes going on with Twitch, and if we think Twitch should remain a gaming platform, or if it is, or if we're okay with it expanding more into a multimedia style kind of platform. So we'll be talking about that. But first, we're going to get into our intros. See how what's been going on with the Thought Patrol crew. We'll start with you, Shawn. How have you been, you lovable sack of shit, over the past week? You done anything special you'd like to share?
I have not. No, I haven't done anything. I got a blender.
Hell yeah!
I got a blender, and I got my last Christmas present. Finally came in through the mail 3 weeks late. And that is absolutely every single thing that's going on with me. I have played nothing new. I did not get anything video game related for Christmas. New Year's was kind of it was like 30% successful.
Nice.
And I might be getting a job where I make like 5,000 a week.
Oh, nice.
And then but there's a huge chance I probably won't be getting that, but then that's up there, so that's kind of tantalizing my brain a little bit.
Nice.
Hell, 5,000 a month would be okay at this point.
I feel you. All right.
Wow. That's about it, really. Titties and beer, man.
Yep. New year, same old shit. Pretty much. I would agree with you in the same regard. Just been doing work, getting prepared for the next semester of school to start up. I think it's on the 12th. We start back up. So that's looming over me like a fucking demon. But it's better than... it's not necessarily better. It's whatever. I have been kind of approaching, hopefully, speaking on my work, my boss... Me and him are like kind of close, not in the realms of like friends, but that I don't know, like he likes that I'm a good worker, blah blah blah, and I help him with shit that he needs done in regards to the work at the store and stuff. I do work at Subway, so laugh all you will. But he was telling me that he ever since I started I don't know if he does this to the other workers. Ever since he started, he said that he can see me managing one of his stores one day, and we're actually taking steps towards that idea. So I've started like management classes and shit like that on their portal online. So that's exciting. And at some point, I may actually be running a store, my own store. I have no idea how long it will take to get there, what it will do. But we started in like realms of doing inventory, waste management, and other shit like that for like typical, like basic knowledge for managing a store and managing employees and stuff. So that'd be pretty exciting. And even if this doesn't go anywhere as a job and I do eventually leave or whatever happens, I have that knowledge, that skill set to add on to like, oh, hey, I actually managed a store. I managed employees, and that would be easier. It'd be easier for future jobs to kind of as some leverage points. Like, hey, I've done this before. I have experience in this field. I can do this effectively and blah, blah, blah. So that'd help in the future, even if the job doesn't go anywhere or I don't end up staying with Subway or whatever. I still have that skill set. So that's nice. So
got a bright future with sandwiches and strange people who come in 5 minutes before close to sit there and stare at you because you're out of meatballs.
You've literally just explained like the last night I worked pretty much. I had a dude that came in and we didn't have any. It gets to a point where I'm not allowed to make more meatballs, right? Because at the end of the night we toss them out. Sometimes people come at 11:30 at night for some fucking meatballs. Now I understand that sentiment. You want the sandwich that you came here to make. But some of these people are returning customers. Like, they'll come back in hopes that for some magical fucking phenomenon that we actually have meatballs at 11:30 at night, and in hopes that is the case. But then when it's not, like it isn't 90% of the time, they come at me and they're like, no meatballs. I'm like, bitch, every time you've come the past month and a half, we have not had meatballs at this time. And you come here twice a week asking for fucking meatballs at this time. What do you want from me? Are you are you trying to murder me in my sleep? I don't understand. It's so frustrating. And I had one guy, I'd never seen him before, but he came in and everything we were out of he wanted, dude. Like, we had ran out of roast beef that day. And we get shipments like 3 times a week, I think. I think it's 3 or 4 times a week we get shipments. And we had run out of roast beef. So he comes in and he's like, oh, can I get roast beef? I'm like, sorry, sir, we're out of roast beef. And we never had meatballs at this time. He's like, oh, that's fine. Just making a meatball sandwich. I'm like, sir, we usually don't have meatballs at this time. I'm sorry. And then I think the last thing was he wanted like white bread, being one of the most popular breads, and it being like 10:30 at night. We didn't have any white bread. We ran out. Again, same thing. I'm not allowed to take white bread out and just bake a batch of bread at 11:30 at night because it gets tossed. So I can't do that. I'm physically not allowed to do that. So he gets all fucking like heated and like sarcastic and shit. He's like, oh, do you guys have anything? And he's looking at a bin, right? Looking down, and literally everything else is stocked to the brim. He can get anything else. There's like 30 other possible combinations sitting right in front of him, and he looks at me with this dumbass fucking look on his face like, you guys have anything tonight? And I'm like, oh, I'm about to beat the shit out of you, bro. And then we get to the end. I make the sandwiches that he did want, and then still bought food there. He didn't leave. He just didn't get that one sandwich that he wanted. And then finally he's like, oh yeah, let me get drinks. Do you guys have cups? And I'm like, ooh, I'm literally about to stab someone. I'm about to beat someone to death with their own sandwich. Oh my God. I was so.
That's when you're like, I'm sorry, sir. We're all out of cups and I can't bake any new ones until tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. It had me livid. And it's just like the idea that just because you're the only one there, you're obviously at fault in the customer's eyes. It doesn't matter what else happened during the day or the fact that you might have been, it could have been the busiest day of the fucking year, but the fact that you don't have exactly what they want at that time, even though it goes against rules to prepare that for them, it's automatically your fault and you are Satan in their eyes. And that always it ticks me off because It's not something where in the moment I'd ever act upon that hate or whatever. It's just something I look at them, smile, and then just like get the fuck out of my store, like as fast as you can, please. And then they leave, and then that's it. Because I don't feel it's worth the energy to fucking act on those emotions or anything like that. So it's something that will exist for 13 seconds in my mind, and then I'll go back to watching YouTube in the back or whatever the fuck while I wait for the night to end. So it's just, there's some things, but for the most part, the job as a whole is it's very chill. It's nothing that just like absolutely drives me insane stress wise. I enjoy the job, and I enjoy closing because I'm pretty much the only one there. Like with the problem with opening is that the gentleman that owns the store, I have nothing against him, but he opens. So if you are opening with him, you are basically you are working with your manager the whole time, and he's kind of like one of those managers where he's not an ass about it, but he's just very like observant about everything. So he's constantly like, oh, hey, you can do this to be better here and there. And I don't have anything against that, but if you're like in the middle of a lunch rush and he's showing you how to put salami on a sandwich, it's just something, it's extra stuff you don't necessarily need stress wise. So I like being the only one there at night. And that I haven't had any, like, as far as customers, everyone's been relatively nice or drunk off their ass because there's a liquor store next door. And for the most part, I haven't had any like weird things happen to me. It's been very chill overall. Also people at night usually tend to tip a bit more, which is interesting. I don't know, maybe because they see you're the only one there, and if there's like 7 people in the store, they're kind of like, I don't know, there's like a weird sympathy going on. And so they'll give you an extra $1 or whatever. So works fine though. Been pretty much literally like the whole group of friends for the most part have been just playing Final Fantasy 14 for the past like 2 weeks, probably reaching close to a month. And I've been leveling fishing, so it's literally sitting there and fishing. And when I hit a certain level cap, I move to an next spot. I have a guide that I use, and I'm just fishing. I'm like level 43, 44 last time I checked. So trying to level that up just to have it up there. And then also there's certain things that you can get from fishing that you can sell for a decent amount of money. And there's like a few different things that you can acquire that are pretty expensive on the market. And also, if we ever get a culinarian up there too, you could use fish for the fish that I can go catch to cook high level or help cook high level meals. And then on top of that, we have a way of buffing before raids whenever we get there, stuff like that. So I figured I'd do that, and I just do my dailies and the other stuff on my other characters. And while I'm waiting for them to pop, I'll sit there and fish. And then when they pop, I switch to my other character, because the way classes work in Final Fantasy, if you haven't played it before, compared to another MMO, like for WoW example, if I want to have a priest and I want to have a DPS and stuff, I had to have multiple characters. And that character is assigned to that priest, and they can only be a priest. They could fall within a few specs that the priest have. Some are DPS, some are healer and stuff like that. But for the most part, you are a healer. You are a priest. You cannot be anything else. But in Final Fantasy, you can have every class in the game on a single character. The way it works is it's just connected to your weapon. So if you equip a weapon for a summoner, you become a summoner. If you have that summoner leveled to a degree, you have to have, so say if I want to equip a level 40 summoner weapon and my summoner's either hasn't been created, hasn't like accepted that role yet, or is only level 1, you cannot equip that book. And then you just level it to that degree.
Ever played Final Fantasy 5 or Final Fantasy Tactics, and you've used the job system before? That's basically what they did with it. You start off with a class, and then you can further build on that class with a job. So you can, and then there are other jobs that didn't boost off of a class; they're just there. But anyone can hold any number of them. It's just changing your equipment.
Yeah, and then you have gear sets for everything, so you can swap between the gear sets. And then, so if I want to do my dailies or do some dungeons, or we're preparing to do a raid, and we could swap roles. If we have a bunch of people that have like a DPS healer and a tank, and we want to swap around, we can do one dungeon I could be a healer, and say we need to fill a role somewhere else, we need a tank. I could just instantly hop over to my tank, not in combat or in the instance, of course, but before we go to the next instance, and then boom, I'm a tank for the next available instance.
You just gotta clear the gear. You carry the gear on you.
Yeah, and then at that point, you're just switching gear sets. So you can have a gear set for everything in the game. You can literally have every single class, every single job at level 70. And I've seen multiple people that have this. Like, it's just 70s across the board, all like 30 something jobs that are available. So what I'll do is I'll sit there I'll queue up as a summoner, which is a DPS class. Then I'll switch to my fisher. And since it's a DPS, the queue takes some time. I'll just fish while I wait for the queue to proc. When the queue does proc, I get out of fishing, switch back to my summoner, and accept the queue, and then boom, I'm doing the dungeon. So it's a good way of maximizing time and shit like that. This is a huge tangent for no reason. The motto for this is, if you are not playing Final Fantasy XIV, we would love to have you play with us. Cool. Another cool thing about the game, it's cross-platform.
Yes. And if you let me know that you want to come in, I will send you a referral, and you will get these feathers.
Yeah, you get free shit.
And then you basically get free good shit, and it's good stuff. So just let me know, like drop a line in Discord, and I will reach out to you and send you the link or whatnot.
But yeah, my favorite part of Final Fantasy XIV, like everything else aside, is the fact that it is crossplay. I think that's super cool. So if you are playing on PS4, Shawn plays on PS4, and then the rest of us in the group play on PC. The game is actually built. I would say the game's actually built pretty well to use a controller. Like, you can do well in high level scenarios with a controller. I don't think there's anything really too bad against it. There are some things here and there, like targeting can get a little finicky depending on what you're doing, and it makes that a little bit difficult. But for the most part, you can do well in the high level instances with a controller. And I know there's some people on PC like to use a controller so they can lay back and they'll play on PC with a controller. I've seen some people do that. So definitely a fun game. We've been just absolutely blowing through it, and I cannot praise it enough. I love it to death. It's my favorite MMO I've played, for multiple reasons. Also, the class design in this game is fucking clean. If you're in our Discord, I posted like a fucking essay, because one of our friends had asked Shawn to about one of the abilities. So he basically dumped this whole fucking essay of an explanation on how the ability works, and it's only one ability, and it's for the ninja class, which is one of the more mechanically intensive classes in the game. But a lot of the classes in this game,
explanations for it,
yeah, we even have one of our friends, Nick. He's played WoW for like his entire life. Like, that's all he's played MMO wise, and WoW's in a kind of a shitty state, so he kind of took a break from WoW to come play Final Fantasy with us, and he's constantly remarked on how much he enjoys the class design in the game, and he thinks it's really top notch, and I would agree with him 100%. There's a lot of classes in this game that if you need depth, it's cool, because there's classes that if you need depth and you need a lot of it, it's there, and you can excel, and if you properly understand the depth, understand the character, you can easily top the charts in realms of DPS and doing well as a damage dealer. And there are classes that also do very well DPS related and are not as mechanically intensive as well. But like, some of the best classes in the game are heavily mechanically intensive, like the ninja, the monk. The monk takes pretty much everything that exists within the game mechanically, like flanking, rear damage, stuns, silences, all this stuff, and builds and weaves it into its kit. It's one of the, again, and he said it, this is coming from his mouth, not like a Final Fantasy fanboy. This is coming from a dude that's played WoW for 7-8 years. He's like, this is one of the most mechanically intensive classes I've played, and that is true testament to the class design in this game. It's fucking phenomenal. There's some really cool classes. All the effects are good. The game's gorgeous. It runs very well. Just an awesome MMO, and it's to the point where I can sit here all day and literally just fucking fish and do other stuff and not have a problem in the world. And all I'm sitting is fishing, because I love being in the world. Oh man, now that I'm done jacking Final Fantasy's fat ass penis. That's been about my week. That's a good description. Just everything Final Fantasy related. That's been what the week has been for me, for the most part. When I have the time to play games, I'm hopping on Final Fantasy. So super excited for the expansion. We're getting Blue Mage in like a week, I think even less. I don't know when they come out, but we're getting Blue Mage very soon, which is super exciting. And can't wait to check that shit out. Anything else you'd like to add, Shawn?
No, I'm glad I pulled all of you in the Final Fantasy. It's just unfortunate that I did not have you all use referrals.
But like, even the thing with it is, I mean, you get the mounts and that's cool, like the different colored chocobos, but the gear is like fucking useless after a certain degree. I mean,
I don't really care about that. That's not the reason why I want it. But I am also a collector, so I have been collecting the minions and the mounts and stuff like that just because.
Yeah, no,
I even went and bought the collector's packs that they originally sold with each expansion, so that I could, which is where I got some of the additional mounts and where I got some minions. And that's the only way you can get them is by paying for the special edition of the which it serves no other purpose.
I really want that whale. Have you seen that whale on the store? Like that?
Yeah, I've seen it in the game.
It's so fucking cool.
It's ridiculously huge.
Yeah, and you can fit another person on it too. And on top, you have like a little picnic set out, and you can.
Technically, you could fit like a whole shitload of characters up there. I just don't think they thought that part through.
That'd be so awesome. You fit your whole raid party on your fucking whale. So everyone's sitting.
It's weird. It's very odd.
I like it.
It went
I
up
think it's
at the
dope.
same time that Cerberus went up.
I really want to get the Lakshima Extreme mounts. They're like those fire dogs that have like the fire brewing up from their front legs. Yeah, you have to do it Lakshima. I don't know exactly if that's how you pronounce it. Extreme, and then it's like a 5 or 6% chance drop. I was waiting for Nick and Hector to get there. They probably can do it, and we need to grind it out just to try and get those fucking dogs, because they are. There's whole groups that are built around just farming out like extreme trials just for the fucking either minions or mounts. But again, awesome game. If you guys feel like you'd like to try out an MMO, there is a free trial. And then if you do go buy game time and do stuff like that, then let Shawn know, and he can see if he can get you a referral code so you get some free shit. So we are not sponsored, by the way. I just fucking love that game so much. All right. I'm glad you're doing good, Shawn. I'm glad all you guys have chosen to tune in with us wherever you are, being morning on your commute to work, middle of the day, or at night as you furiously masturbate to the sound of our voices. We do appreciate you guys all tuning in every week. It really means a lot to us hearing back from you guys in Discord or in the comment section or anything like that. We always enjoy hearing your guys' voices, your opinions on what we talk about. I always like the interactivity between again, I've said it before, but the interactivity between the creator of the content to the people consuming the content. I always love that connection, and I appreciate you guys for maintaining that with us. It means a lot. So now we actually have a few ways that you guys, if that sounds interesting to you, you want to talk with us, get to know us, hang out, or let us get to know you. There's a few ways that you can do that. We do stream on Twitch. Now, if you would like to know when we stream, there's a few ways. You can follow our Twitter at ThoughtPatrolPD or join our Discord. Again, all the links will be down below. And you can check out through there. We always announce when we're going live. And if it sounds like you want to stop by, say hi, hang out, feel free to do that. Also, if we talk about anything in this episode that sounds interesting to you, that you agree with or disagree with, feel free to leave a comment below. Also, while you're doing that, feel free to subscribe either on YouTube or your respective podcasting service to get us every Tuesday at 8 a.m. You could also, I already said Twitter, you could follow us on Facebook, the Thought Patrol Podcast. We also have our sister Facebook page, The Streaming Geek, where reviews go up for different media things that we consume here, and you can check out the reviews over there. Also, finally, if you really like us, you want to help us out, feel free to drop an iTunes review, whatever you feel we deserve, to kind of help us out, get us showing up more in the lists on iTunes and things like that. A decent amount of reviews actually come from iTunes. So if you want to help us out a lot, feel free to drop a review there, and it can help bring more people into the show. So we'd appreciate that. Again, that's housekeeping. All the links will be down below in the description of wherever you're tuning in. You can find that stuff there. So let's get into the meat potatoes. We got some questions this week. I had sent out a call for help that I needed content onto the Discord, and the Discord had responded. We had a few questions that we can talk about. Always appreciate it. First one coming from Handsome Jack, also known as Alex. We do appreciate the questions, you guys. He says, hello, Patrol of Thoughts. I would call it Patrol of... he spells it THOTS. I would call it Patrol of Thoughts with the OUGHTS, but thoughts require some semblance of brain capacity, and I'm about 98% sure that's completely absent from this server. Jesus fuck. How are you guys doing? How does Kyle feel about his new job manhandling his stream schedule a la dominatrix style? Not very good. Will Sam's questions ever have an ending?
No, they won't.
I don't. It's kind of like the amount of licks it takes to get the center of the Tootsie Pop. The world may never know. Will I ever escape the babysitting hell? Probably not. And don't look too much into this question. I've wanted to submit one for a long time and never thought of something worth asking. Now, here's something interesting. We don't give a shit if you think it's worth asking. If you are sitting in your car and you think, what's the most disgusting shit experience you guys have ever had? We will answer the question, bro. I think any question is worth asking. Feel free. If anything pops into your head and you want us to talk about it, it doesn't have to be worth asking. We will answer any fucking question you guys have for us.
But I do promise you, since you said don't look too hard into this question, we are absolutely going to do that.
Too hard into this question.
I already pulled out a microscope and a rectal examination kit, so let's go.
Let's do it. What was I going to say? I wanted to submit one for a long time. Never thought. This hasn't changed here either, so I'm just going to hit you guys with some generic shit. I appreciate it. In recent years that you can recall, what's your biggest disappointment when it comes to comparing the hype of something announced to its actual release? Oh, excuse me. Mine is the release of the game Atlas, which looked pretty neat in the trailer, but was absolute dog shit in actual gameplay. Probably something better I could think of for an answer/question, but like I said, generic shit is generic, but whatever. Happy New Year, I guess. Happy New Year to you too, my friend.
Happy New Year!
Hoping for good tidings and joy. I don't know. For 2019, hopefully it's I can't wait to look forward to what 2019 has in store in regards to both the content we create here and in our individual lives. I have a feeling that 2019 will be a great year, and definitely Happy New Year to everyone that is tuning in. So, Shawn. Well, first, let me real quick. Shawn, you know Atlas, right? It's the new game that was made by the people that made Ark.
As soon as somebody says, "Are the people that made Ark is making a new game?" I laugh and then don't look at it. So,
which was a proper reaction because Atlas was a huge pile of shit. It was an MMO, pirate MMO. See, I didn't know it was made by people that made Ark until I saw gameplay. But the moment I saw the gameplay, I'm like, this is Ark but reskinned. Like, it's exactly what it is, and it is an absolute fucking dumpster fire of a game release. Super buggy. But one interesting thing that's kind of arose from Atlas is apparently there's a shitload of Chinese players. So there's like this gigantic race war going on of American players going on to like the servers for like Chinese players and like just mass genociding Chinese players and the vice versa, where Chinese players coming onto American servers and like gang banging like characters and structures.
Animate this using like Arc animation and put pirate hats on them and then like make a whole red versus blue series out of it.
Yeah, dude. But there's been like, it's all over Reddit for like the Atlas Reddit, like this huge fucking America versus China race war going on. And it's such an interesting thing to see come out of such a horrible failure of a launch for a game. But it's interesting. If you guys haven't heard of Atlas, just Google Atlas trailer versus reality. And it is some of the most like absolute like abhorrent pieces of like false advertising I've ever seen when it comes to like, and it's a constant reminder as to why if you ever see something that kind of doesn't look like gameplay, and the thing with Atlas is it kind of did look like gameplay. It felt like gameplay, but it was all something that looks like it was made in a completely different build of the game compared to what happened at launch. It's such a huge fucking mess of a game. So constant reminder, don't pre-order, guys. Don't pre-order. I don't even know if you could have pre-ordered, but always wait for reviews. See how the internet takes it before you go on. But that game was an absolute failure. But Shawn, can you think of something that the hype
Final
that you
Fantasy
had?
15.
Okay, we've talked about that before, but would you like to elaborate a little bit as to when you initially heard it announced and your thoughts coming up to its release, and then post-release, what you thought?
Every time they released news on it, it always sounded juicy and interesting up until they said that they thought they might make it an action RPG, and then they said they weren't. They said they were, and then it was. And there's so many beautiful things about that game. And if it, had been complete or had ever had an opportunity to be completed, because it's still not complete, and the last section of add-ons that they were going to release to try and complete it, including like the Arden story arc and explaining, because I think it was only like 70 or 60% complete when they released it, and the rest of the story was DLC bullshit, and you had to pay for it. So that's a really that this is probably the most predatory I've ever seen Squeenix at, was Final Fantasy 15, and the game as a service and all that other bullshit. Like everything that came out of it when you first saw it as part of the Crystal series, where it was turn-based and, well, I'd say a modification of turn-based. It worked a little bit like Parasite Eve.
Okay, so yeah, I get
which
you.
I would have been fine with, but it was just a very different beast when they had all the hype building up for it. And even afterwards, I still tried to be positive.
Did that game
But
take
the
like 10
dumpster
years?
fire that we received was pretty, and it was fun. It had some magic points, but it was a spin-off. It wasn't a main installment. It never was a main installment. And that was probably my biggest disappointment, as opposed to the hype. That and Castlevania Lords of Shadow.
Ooh.
Although the gameplay was still pretty sharp on that, but it was really disappointing when you find out that the ending to the story was gated behind DLC. And I give a honorable mention to Castlevania. What was it called? Resurrection, which they hyped and hyped and hyped and released pictures and etc. And it was going to be released on the Dreamcast, which is the whole reason why I purchased a Dreamcast and invested a bunch of money into it, and then come to find out they canceled it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that game is a tiny little footnote in history, but those were mine anyway.
Okay, sounds good.
Mighty Number 9 gets another honorable mention.
Yeah,
but that one's really obvious.
I haven't. A lot of the times, I don't know if it's like some type of precognition or some shit, but I haven't really had a game that like I saw and was like, and thought of it in a different light than how it actually turned out to be. Not to say that I'm a genius or anything like that, because I'm definitely not. You guys just got to listen to me talk for 5 minutes and you'd be able to kind of figure that one out. But like with like No Man's Sky, right? I saw No Man's Sky. I watched the promotional content for it, and a lot of the time, from what I had pulled from the stuff that they talked about and all that stuff to what the final copy of the game was, I felt like what I had thought about the game was kind of close to what the actual full release product was. The game wasn't as pretty. That was probably the biggest disappointment. But for the most part, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just going to be able to explore space. And it was kind of that. I was just able to explore space. It was kind of paper thin in that regard, but I still played it for like 50 hours. And then I originally picked it up on when it got the next update. I got it on PC for stupid cheap and then played it again for another like 30 or 40 hours. And I could say from the initial launch, I think I got my money out of the enjoyment that I had of that game. So I never was like, for others, it might have been a gigantic disappointment. And it for like definite reason, like it makes sense as to why people were so disappointed, because this game was pushed as being the next fucking big thing in regards to space exploration, space sim games like that, and it was nowhere close to what that was. But I think I heard, like, I'm thinking like Destiny 1, but again with Destiny 1, I didn't buy it when it came out. I eventually got it when Taken King launched, and I heard a lot of good things about Taken King and enjoyed it to death from there on. But initial launch Destiny, I didn't touch. So I can see the huge disappointment, especially as how much they pushed Destiny, like it being a new genre of gaming, this experiment that they were pushing out and seeing how it would do and stuff. And those articles leading up to its release,
6-year game cycle and all that.
Yeah, and then it being just not what that was at all, and to the degree of people quitting the game within a few months of it launching, even within the same month and stuff like that. And it's just, I think a hype train is always good because even if the game is shit on launch, if you have enough people buy it, then in the company's eyes, that's still a success if they made the money back. Although Destiny might be a weird thing because it was very expensive to create and stuff like that. But it's always interesting to see how, like, even actually I have one. And some people might crucify me for this, but Red Dead Redemption 2. I was very not like bleeding out of my asshole excited for Red Dead Redemption 2, but I was very interested in seeing the game. And for the most part, what I was excited about was the world. And I think they did a good job creating that world. But there was a lot of talk with Red Dead Redemption 2 with it being like Rockstar's next big step kind of thing. And in some realms, I would say that the amount of time and dedication they put into creating their worlds, it was a step up. It definitely was. But with the control system being the same and so many other things not being a next step, and them taking kind of not even steps back, but just not going forward, not being progressive enough with the other elements of gameplay, it feels like it was kind of overhyped. And I've talked to some other people, our friend Tyler, he was so excited for Red Dead Redemption 2, and he had the same kind of sentiment. He felt like it was a little overhyped. Like he thought it would be the next big thing like Rockstar. It wouldn't control like hot donkey ass, and it would be super immersive. But and I do agree. I'm not hating on the game. It was super immersive. I don't feel like it led up to the hype being pushed out for it that I heard from publications, I heard from other people, and I still haven't finished it to this day. So I can't really fully say. I probably put about 15 hours into it. I got about 35% into the game, and I stopped playing. I think I switched back over to Final Fantasy 14 because my WoW subscription ran out, and I was done with WoW. So then that game kind of sucked me back in. So it's definitely crazy how much you can create expectations on your own from seeing so little of actual gameplay in regards to No Man's Sky, in regards to Mass Effect Andromeda and stuff like that, where you can quickly spiral into absurdity to the point where you have people sending out death threats when games actually do release, which has happened multiple times, which is absurd. Don't tell people you're going to hurt their family because they made something that you thought was going to be something else. That's stupid. Don't do that. But I think that's a good answer to the question. If you guys tuning in have anything that you think fits in something that greatly disappointed you upon release, let us know again through the conventional means. Anything else to add, Shawn? Are you good? All right.
Totally good.
Next question we have from Frosty Shake. All right, I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna try and read this as close to the source material as possible. I heard this so many times in memes, but I suck at like acting, so we'll be fine. I think, is there an actual question here? Okay, yeah, there is. All right. Why are we still here? Just to suffer? Every night I can feel my leg and my arm, even my fingers. The body I've lost, the comrades I've lost, won't stop hurting. It's like they're all still there. You feel it too, don't you? Okay, for a real question. If that sounds familiar to you guys, that's from Metal Gear 5, Metal Gear Solid 5. It's like later, much later on in the story. I haven't finished that game either, now I think about it. I don't remember what the last thing I did was. I think I just got into like the like foresty continent, and I was working in there. All right. Okay, now for a real question. I'm not sure if this has been asked before, but what is y'all's favorite holiday gaming memory? Mine is getting Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time for Christmas 1 year and playing the absolute fuck out of it on break, along with Metal Arms Glitch in the System. Now, I think we have answered this question before, but we'll go ahead and answer it again real quick with one memory. Shawn, when you think of Christmas and games, what is something that comes to mind?
I got my first Game Boy on a Christmas,
Ooh.
and I remember I played that. All I had was Tetris, and I had another game that was coming, but I couldn't open it yet. It was Batman, the Game Boy game, which was also a good game. But all I had was Tetris that day. So I sat there and played fucking Tetris all fucking day and loved it up until later in the day when I got to open another game. That was one. And when I got my Nintendo 64, I got that for Christmas. And it was Star Wars Shadows of the Empire.
Ooh.
I played the ever-loving shit out of that game and had so much fun playing that.
Nice.
Those were two big holiday ones.
I remember we had also received a Nintendo 64 for Christmas. I actually received it from my grandmother, and it had I don't remember. I know it had Mario 64, and I think it had GoldenEye with it too, like separately. And we had all my cousins over, so we all sat down and played split screen GoldenEye for like 7 hours, and just sat there. And I'm like, this is the future. This is the pinnacle of gaming. There will be nothing to come that will ever exceed this moment right here. We are living in 2100. And I'm just like absolutely practically in nirvana. It was so much fun. And so I think last time I answered the question, I was talking about Smash and sitting down and unlocking all the characters with my sister, which almost felt like a tradition because we did it again this year for when we got extra controllers on Christmas. But that was like one really big thing, like everyone sitting down to play GoldenEye, just like the first day, open it up, plug that motherfucker in, and everyone sitting down and playing. It was a blast. So definitely, again, we extend this question to y'all tuning in. Let us know what you guys think. And finally, we also have one coming from Sam. He constantly changes his name. Now his nickname is Sam Smash, unless I deleted.
I think it was Sam Smash before, though.
No, it was like
used that before.
It was like Sam Smash Ultimate or some shit, but now it's just Sam Smash. It was like Sam Let's Smash Ultimate or some shit. I don't know what the fuck it was before.
More like Sam Never Smashes.
Golasso. All right. He comes with us with, you dorks are pretty cool. I think I won't beat you up. I don't have a question this week. All I wanted to say is that I've enjoyed y'all responses to my questions. All other nerds ramble on when I ask questions, and I have to punch them in the face. You guys get to the point, although. That Shawn guy takes forever to answer. I'll give him a pass, though. Keep it up, nerds.
I'd answer quicker if your questions were better phrased, shorter, and more concise. Oh!
Stop.
Sam,
He has a family. There's no need for this. This is going into the realms of the extreme.
Cruelty!
God.
It's unreasonable!
God.
Oh, the humanity.
We've built Sam his own Auschwitz in our podcast environment. That's all it is.
God damn it.
I gotta go back to it. Where the fuck are we?
I don't know. You were there was the me thing, and then I interrupted you. And
mailbags. Mailbags are done. Thank you guys for the questions again. Means a lot to us that you guys spent the time to send us stuff to talk about here. If you guys want to send in a question, there's a few ways you can do that. You can do it through our email, thoughtpatrolcast@gmail.com. You can do it on Twitter with the hashtag TPMailbag, or you could do it through Discord in our mailbag segment. We will basically grab all those questions, congregate them here, talk about them on the show, and we'd love to hear from you guys. We make it as easy as possible. Whatever method you feel works for you, feel free to take that up. Let us know what you guys think. We appreciate it. So, moving forward, we have box office tops. Talk about the movies that came out this week, boys. I didn't have the tab open, but now I do. Shawn, what do you think's number one?
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to what movies come out for like the last 6 months. So
It's
I have no
Aquaman.
fucking idea what's out.
It's Aquaman.
Aquaman is
Yeah, it's
it?
Aquaman.
Is it? But it's not new now, right? This is like its third week, right?
Nothing new is sitting at the top. The top 5 are actually recurring films.
Well, January is a notoriously horrible
Shitty.
month
Yeah.
for new movies to come out. Like, it's very rare for them to release a good new film in January, maybe even February sometimes. But January is normally where they send movies to die. Like, they made the movie, they have no faith in it. They realized it was already a lost investment, so they stopped promoting it, and they just release it in January. They did it with Seventh Son. They did it with the last 2 Underworld movies, which I don't know somehow succeeded.
Oh, interesting. You know what?
It's bad.
Let's see, because this goes by weekend box office, and this is still using last weekend, so we're not technically done with the weekend yet. Let me see if I get a weekly pull. 2019. Does that even work? Week by week?
It'd be really smart if you actually made a good fucking movie and tried releasing it in January, because it would kill all January. But most people are broke, so they don't go to the theaters.
All right, December 28th to January 3rd. That's much more accurate as to where we are as we record. Number 1 is still fucking Aquaman, though. Number 1.
Wet Thor, ladies and gentlemen. Wet Thor has taken the theaters by storm.
Yeah. Aquaman pulling in $92 million for the weekend, sitting at a total of $229 million gross in its second week, with a total gross of almost $1 billion, $887 million. So it's getting there. Number 2, we got Mary Poppins Returns pulling $52 million for the weekend, sitting at a total gross of $122 million domestically, with a budget of $130 million in its second week. At number 3,
I'm almost tempted to see that, because when I was real little and I didn't realize Disney was evil, like, I did like Mary Poppins, because I liked the chimney sweep, Dick Van Dyke's character. When I was a little kid, but like, who gives a fuck about Mary Poppins as an adult? Really,
I don't remember a single fucking thing from Mary Poppins, and I've probably watched it like 5 times, and I don't remember anything besides the fact that she uses an umbrella to travel. I don't know.
It's kind of like Nanny McPhee, but with more magic shit and less, I don't know, everything else that was Nanny McPhee. I don't know. Mary Poppins is an okay movie. It's got some of the first combination of acting and cartoon characters. Mary Poppins did it along with Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So that was kind of a thing.
I've seen Mary Poppins like 4 or 5 times. I've seen Nanny McPhee like 3 or 4 times, and I've only seen Matilda once, and I remember more from the Matilda movie than I do from those other 2 films.
Look, seriously, who's watched Nanny McPhee more than once? Why would you watch that 3 times?
I was a child. What the fuck do you expect, dude?
You have no excuses.
I watched the same Barney episode like 60 billion times before I realized I was scared of the little fucker.
You took you 60 billion times to realize you were scared of a purple dinosaur?
Yeah, dude.
A purple T-Rex.
That's when I saw it in his eyes.
There's nothing but hang out with young children and giggle.
Yeah. What does he sound like when he laughs? Oh,
I love you. You love me.
Stop it. You're bringing back the memories, and they're not good. Imagine being in the middle of the night, and you're sleeping in bed, and you hear like fat fucking dinosaur footsteps from the hallway, and you hear that playing.
Like cutting, like a soft, pillowy sound.
Yeah, and you hear that playing from your hallway, and something, and your door's locked for whatever reason because it's a horror movie, and you hear something like wiggling the fuck out of the doorbell, and then
I love you.
Yeah, and then it just kind of steps off down the other way, like down the hallway the other direction, and then you hear the noise go out.
He starts writing a creepypasta.
Yeah, and there's probably one that exists, and you hear and then you hear another door in the hallway open, and he went to another person's room, and then you freak the fuck out, and you have to go check. I need to direct a film. At number 3, we got Bumblebee pulling $38 million for the week with a total of $84 million. Number 4, we got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse pulling $35 million for the week, sitting at a total of $120 million. And at number 5, we got The Mule pulling $23 million for the week, sitting at a total of $72 million. For the new films,
you got like comic book movie, cartoon comic book movie, and then Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, and Mary Poppins.
And Mary Poppins, yeah.
At number 6, we have Vice, which actually kind of made a big jump from last week. It was in 10th place, now it's in 6th. Pulled $14 million for the week, which is a new-ish film. It's almost in its second week. So, Holmes and Watson is in the same boat, almost in its second week, but it's in 9th place. Nothing really else came out. So, that's the films. They'll probably be like this for a while, as Shawn said. So, yeah, that's what's going on.
What they also likely do is, since there isn't much else to watch, they'll keep those in the theaters for like an extra week apiece, maybe.
Yeah.
Which will give us extra time to watch the ones that we want to. Like I as much as I said I was never going to touch another Transformers film after the last two, and it should have been after the one before the last one, but for some reason. Yeah, like the last one, I wasn't gonna go see it. And then one of my friends was like, "Hey, dude, it's in the dollar theater. How bad can it be?" And then 3 hours later, I was like, "I want my dollar back." And he's like, "I'm sorry." And I'm like, "I fucking went to spend time with you, and you refused to talk through the movie, which meant I had to watch that fucking movie." And I think I'd just rather dip my nuts in honey and then in a fire ant hill than watch another Transformers movie with Michael Bay at the helm. But they apparently Bumblebee it's not a good movie, but it's a fun movie.
Have you seen Bumblebee?
Watching. It's decent. I have not. Everyone keeps telling me that I have to go see it though, because it's okay. And people I trust on YouTube that I always agree with are saying good things too.
All right.
So I'm definitely going to go see it.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So we're going to move into our review corner. We actually have one this week. We have something to talk about. We actually caught up on some of the anime that we were behind on, and the season is quickly coming to an end. So a few of the shows, usually some of them don't end up, either they usually wait to see how the show does, how much money it makes before they go into development of a second season, depending on what the show is. So some of these shows might not see more of. Some we already know we're going to see more of. So, but we'll give a review up to this point, what we thought of the show, whether it's worth your time, and we'll talk about it a lot. They're both animes, though, so if that's not your thing,
fuck off. You're going to have to listen to it anyway.
I'll skip it like 5-10 minutes. I don't know. But the thing with like the Rascal show, when we get into that, I think it's just it's kind of reminds me of kind of like Erased, where the characters are good enough to kind of hold it past the realms of anime, where it's just like a good story that I recommend you watch, kind of, that you can kind of enjoy to a degree. Zombieland's super anime, and a lot of it harkens back to old anime, so it's, if you're not an anime fan, that won't be something you're into. But Rascal, I think, could be something that someone might find enjoyment in, even if they're not a fan of anime.
Zombieland's up there with Myriad Colors. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's anime for anime fans.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get into them. We're going to start with Zombieland, then we'll talk about Rascal Dreams of a Bunny Girl Senpai. That is indeed the name, and it is fucking absurd when you actually think about the whole show, because the Bunny Girl thing is maybe one episode, and then there is nothing else regarding that for the rest of the show besides little.
They do a callback to it when she gives him the the costume. She gives it to him in a bag.
She also tutors him wearing it for some reason, because he asked her to, or some shit like that. I remember that happening.
I fucking sure as hell would have done the same thing, so you can't knock him for it.
All right, so we'll talk about them both. We'll start with Zombieland. We'll go into the Rascal show, and as always, Shawn, we're going to start with you. What'd you think about Zombieland now that we have consumed the first season?
It took a little bit. I wasn't the most excited person in the entire universe to watch it, because I don't normally like... let me rephrase. I've never felt the compulsion to watch a show about
idols,
being a star, being a pop star. And that's just really doesn't sound entertaining to me at all. And then you're like, but they're also zombies. And I'm like, now it goes from not sounding entertaining to sounding stupid. And you're like, well, it's my turn, so we're going to watch this one. This one I pick. And I'm like, motherfucker. Because he pulls the turn card, and you really can't do much about that. So when we watch the episode, and by the end of the episode, I had to admit I had laughed out loud, and I tried not to for 2 or 3 times.
I must spite this man.
Yeah,
I must spite him.
We're best friends. You have to do the spite. It's really genuinely funny. It's up there in its own. It's got a little bit more heart, and it does get slightly meaningful from time to time. It's got a little bit more heart than stuff like Konosuba, or Asobi Asobase. But I would say that it is nearly as funny. The majority of that comedy is one of the girls who her intelligence doesn't completely leave zombie mode. So she's kind of just slightly aware of what's going on around her. And it's still the majority of she just kind of randomly chews on things, drools, and makes noises.
Real quick. So if someone hasn't heard or doesn't know about the show, quick premise, without spoiling anything major, the idea is, and I'm not even going to refer to anything, it's just going to be the overall quick premise, because I think the first episode has something that is surprising if you haven't seen it, and it can kind of throw you for a loop, so I don't want to spoil anything large. But basically, there's this dude. He has an idea. He wants to revitalize Saga, which is a prefecture of Japan that used to be very
small town.
Yeah, it used to have a lot of popular idols that kind of came from there. And idols are like pop stars, basically. So they're usually in group, and then blah, blah, blah. So this dude has the brilliant idea. He's like, I'm going to take girls that had died, that some used to be in pop idol groups, or some wanted to be pop idols, or some
could contribute something original to the pop idol group.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna go and revive every single one of these girls and bring them to life, and we're gonna make a new group. We're gonna revitalize Saga. That's the idea. Now the thing is, are these zombie girls? Do they look pretty? No, they actually are fucking zombies. Now the idea is that he puts a shitload of makeup on them to make them look good to perform. But when they first show up, and there's a lot of jokes that play around it, they look like disgusting monsters, and they even make disgusting, nasty noises as they move around and shit, which I thought was always a nice touch.
No, I mean, it is a very slapstick comedy, so they're not really going for any level of logical realism.
No,
one of the best jokes in the first episode, which I'll be happy to spoil, is when they ask, well, how did you make us zombies? How did you bring us back? He's like, not important, and just moves on.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, have you ever seen a zombie movie? And she's like, yeah. He's like, there you go.
Yeah, and that's it. They just completely get all that backstory and motivation or anything to ground it in terms of the quest that he's given them is just superfluous. It's more about the hijinks and the funniness and watching each of them adapt to the new life and whatnot. And when it does get heavy, it's never too heavy. It's just heavy enough. And then directly afterwards, it goes right back into absurdity. And it is funny. You will laugh aloud a lot. And again, most of it comes from best girl Ty, whose hair looks like a squid, and the mad scientist gooftard manager that brought them back from the dead.
Yeah.
And he by far gets the queen's pick of the best lines in the show. He is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And he really does belong in Konosuba. Like, he'd fit right in that world.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the voice actor is really good for him too. Just like,
he's so good.
He's so good. Yeah.
But I like Ty enough to where if I ever see like a figure of Ty, I'd fucking snatch that shit up.
Yeah.
Like, Ty just always gets these great fucking scenes, and she doesn't speak, so that makes it even more interesting. Yeah. It's all her facial expressions. Just when you watch the episodes, always keep an eye in the background, because normally they'll have Ty doing some comic relief shit in the back somewhere, doing something. Yeah, but it's a lot of fun.
I think definitely at first it's a comedy. It still has idol like things to it. There's still idol drama, but again, a lot of it is in the idea that they are idols and they're trying to be idols, but it never gets too heavy with it. Like Shawn said, there are some scenes that have heart, but it's more in regards to the girls themselves, not like the whole idol idea. Because if you think about it, they all died. they all died young. They're going to have to explain how that happens at one point or another.
And they all had stupid deaths. So it's always fun waiting to find out what dumb thing one of them did to get them dead in the first place. Or where they were that got them killed. Like, I won't spoil any of that for you. But it's like a contest to see who died the dumbest fucking way.
Yeah, even though, like, but I do also agree there's a decent amount of heart in the show, and if you do grow attached to the characters, I think some of the later episodes can get you a little misty. I did cry in one of the episodes because it was I don't know, it's hard to say because I like the character, the girl, and when you think about how everything kind of unfolded and how she got to where she was, and the people that were in her life when she still was alive, everything about it things with like parents and their kids and stuff, that always gets me a little misty. So I fucking cried on that episode, and I know Shawn knows exactly what episode I'm talking about, but
yeah, they didn't make it like a perfect. Yeah, they didn't drape too much fantasy over that either, which I kind of liked.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be sparkly eyes and fucking, it was not.
It was pretty, if you think about it, it was pretty fucking dark. Like the idea and how she ended up.
Yeah, although in her death itself.
It was pretty dumb, yeah.
Yeah. Like she did, everyone gets the privilege of having a stupid death, even if there's kind of some dark drama-y shit surrounding it.
Yeah, but
everyone gets the stupid death privilege.
But I think the biggest thing is it's finding a character that you like, if not all of them, because I slowly fell in love with all of the characters, and then seeing what, again, like Konosuba, like Asobi Asabase, seeing what kind of crazy shit they get into next. I overall enjoyed the music of the show. Like most idol shows, there is like a 3D CGI thing going on when they do get into like the dancing and the dance routines, or if they perform. Although the CG here was a little bit different. It felt not as smooth. Yeah, it's not good. CG's never good for the most part, unless the show is built around the CG, like Land of the Lustrous, which has, again, if you have not seen that show and you live by the idea that CG is never good in anime, watch Land of the Lustrous. That show will completely turn around your opinion, like a full 180.
It's not perfect by any means, but it is good.
It's fucking
smooth. It's very pretty.
It's so.
But I still think the movement of the characters never doesn't feel organic. It's just a lot better than what you normally see.
Yeah, definitely.
They're still supposedly we're still waiting on a second season. For
they left a lot open. I'd love to see more of that world because it was very
left a lot open. They didn't finish anything.
That's what I'm saying.
Everything is open. It's not just like you're in the first chapter.
Yeah. So there's a bit of CG here and there. Although I think I always thought their performances they always had something interesting or crazy happen that I thought was cool. # Laserlight Show. And I always enjoyed seeing what would happen next, what these characters would go through next, how they would band together to solve their small problems that revolved around being an idol and stuff like that. It's just that I think there's a lot of charm to the show, and you always wanted to find out what's next for these characters, kind of along the lines of Konosuba or Asobi Asabase. So
it is very charming.
Yeah, definitely.
I think for me, I really didn't get into their band, the idol journey. Like, I really don't give a fuck what they do as an idol group next. Like, that's just not something I'm concerned with. I just like to see what fucking trouble they get into next, and what the crazy dude that runs the thing. Like, it's just, for me, it's almost entirely funny, and you just enjoy the characters, and it's got a lot of charm. But I don't really, outside of the depth that they give the characters, because every character all but one got a character that focused on them, like an episode that was like their episode.
Every single one of them except the dancer from like feudal Japan. She didn't really get anything. We didn't know much about her. One that like to slap the fuck out of people.
Yeah,
man, she would rail the fuck out of you. Like, she practically blow your head off.
She's essentially something like a royal geisha.
Yeah,
she was a courtesan, so she played instruments. She would discuss, hold conversations, dance.
Yeah,
little fingers.
Every time,
but she didn't get a backstory.
Every time I come back to the show and I think about it, I always think of like the rap segment and all of that, and that like perfectly describes the craziness of this show. is that whole segment of them like doing the rapping and shit like that. And
the head flew into the audience and like everybody stops.
Yeah.
The audience stops, the stage stops, everyone's just looking at everyone else. Like good 30 seconds of just silence.
Yeah, even when they were fighting over it and Sakura, the main character, she just fucking slams the hand out of Best Girl's hands. I forget what her name is. The one that was the biker.
Die.
No, the one that was the
biker.
Oh,
I don't remember her name.
I don't either. But definitely just a fun show. Definitely something if you like anime, the opening for the show's fucking phenomenal. It harkens back to a lot of older shows. The way they start the episodes is kind of like this like dramatized recap and stuff like that. A lot of it kind of has little nods to older shows and stuff. So if you can,
even the recap's pretty funny.
Yeah, if you can sit down and like watch it with someone else, just kind of chilling, or if you are a fan of anime, I definitely recommend this show. It's super fun and just an awesome thing, especially if you could watch it with someone else. Because I always think that comedies are best enjoyed with either like a group or one other person, so you guys can I think it always kind of helps the mood out. I don't know. But
yeah, if you enjoyed like Myriad Colors and Fantasy World or
Konosuba,
I think that was it anyway. Or if you enjoyed Konosuba, it's definitely got some similar things going on in terms of the comedy. Konosuba's a bit meaner.
Yeah, Konosuba's everyone in that show's a fucking selfish prick. It's fucking, and I love them all, respectively.
Yeah. Well, they become slightly better as the show goes on. I don't think that they're bad people. I just think they're stupid, selfish people.
Yeah, they're not your typical
don't take
hero.
anything seriously. But again, Konosuba at its heart is a comedy, so they're not going to live in a world where real values exist for those characters.
Yeah.
At least not at first. But yeah, it's kind of like it's funny.
Yeah.
I would give it. I'd say 4, maybe 3.5 packs of dried squid out of 5.
Nice. I am a fan of both comedy shows and actually idol shows. I've seen a few of them, and I think as an idol show, I think it did well. And usually there's not much to them, so that's nice. It's different. It's a different take on the idol genre, and that's fine with me. I thought the music was good. The only thing that really kind of put me off was the CG animation, and that's kind of hard to hold it against it because every single idol show has the same exact thing. So it's a product of its environment practically at that point. But I love this show to death. I love the characters. I love the comedy, and I love the writing of the comedy. I love the music. I love the opening. I really don't have any issues with this show. And I think what it was setting out to do, it did, and it did well, and it did in an interesting way. So I'd give Zombieland. I need to think of something. I'd give Zombieland. I was gonna say 1, but it would be a spoiler, so I didn't want to say it. Oh fuck. I'd give Zombieland 5 reincarnated zombies to dress up as idols out of 5. I like that show a lot, and it's something I'll think when I think back on older shows that I enjoyed. When I put it in my list, I put asterisks next to it, and that's how you know it's something that I would recommend to somebody. So I have like this big list of animes that I've enjoyed, and then I have special ones that I put asterisks next to that I'm like, holy shit, it's something I think you'd like a lot. I definitely recommend it. But if you're not a fan of anime, I don't think it would flow well with you. It's definitely one of those things where you got to kind of know of the quirks that exist within that medium. So next we have what's the actual name of this show? Because I don't think I've ever said it a single time correctly. Okay, it's Rascal Does Not Dream of a Bunny Girl Senpai. That is the correct name for the title. It is a supernatural drama / romance. What do you think, Shawn? What do you think of this show?
I think it gets better as the series goes on because they work less. I like the show. I like it a lot. It is very flawed. There's a lot of problems with it from a character development perspective and from a plot writing perspective. There's attention to detail that should be given in certain areas that they just don't go into at all. There's a lot of facts that you need to know for something to feel real or believable, or behavioral traits or things you need to hear or see for things to be believable that they just completely gloss over and skip or don't bother mentioning. It's got a lot of these little holes and fragile pieces, and anything that if you pressed hard enough on it, it would just shatter. And even despite all of that, all of those like itty bitty flaws that make the entire structure overall weak, I think that it's just got a shitload of charisma and charm, and it's got really great dialogue. I don't know exactly what it's trying to be. I mean, it's got a little bit of romance. It's got a little bit of mystery. It's got a little bit of drama. In a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me with this thing that used to be really popular in the 80s and early 90s, where they do these evening soap operas, but the soap operas were kind of for the whole family, but kind of not. And you'd have like murder mysteries and romance plots and comedy bits and just weird shit would happen on these shows. And this is kind of like that. It's a show that centers around a guy who is constantly getting involved in these psychic events that happen to other people. He was involved in one when he was younger, 2 years before, I think. And now it's the whole story takes place over, I think, about a year's time. The first season. Is that right, Kyle?
Oh, rewatching it with Caitlyn, I think it's like 6 or 7 months. Because remember, we have...
So it's about a school season.
Yeah, because we have a whole... Japan. Remember, during the second arc, we lose a whole month, technically, if you think about it. Because the whole thing with Pavlov's demon, or what the fuck was it called?
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing...
It wasn't Pavlov's demon. It was...
something.
No.
Start with a P.
Laplace's demon.
Laplace's demon. Okay, in that arc, we kind of lose a month when you think about it in regards to time. So, try not to spoil anything.
It picked up. Yeah, I guess. So, the biggest problem you're going to have if you're a logical person, most people aren't. So, it's only people like me that will bash their head against the wall with this. Is that in the very first few story arcs, focusing on the first 3 girls, they really try to explain why it's happening, and instead of being creative with it or explaining it in a way that actually makes sense, they start to explain it, and then they realize that they would have to take an entire episode or really think to figure out how to explain this easily. Like, I could watch that episode and go, all right, if they rewrote that entire panel of dialogue and did it this way, it would make more sense. But it'd be smarter if they did it more organically throughout the 2 or 3 episodes that each arc takes, and give you it by showing it in front of the camera a lot of time, and maybe not by doing info dumps, which is normally how they did it. They would do info dumps. And that number one is hard to watch. It's not entertaining to watch. And even though they try and explain it to the hero of the story, which in essence is trying to explain it to the viewers, it's not a good explanation. And it, in general, doesn't really make much sense. It makes sense to whoever wrote it, I'm assuming, but it really does not translate well to making sense to the viewer.
All right.
So the show is going to try and explain
real quick.
First.
Let's give a like I did with Zombieland, quick basis of what's going on to kind of give you a bit more context as to regards of the story.
After I finish my sentence, why you got a quick basis in the middle of the sentence?
Then I'll forget, because I've been sitting here vegging out for the past like 5 minutes, and I just realized that we didn't do like a quick basis. All right. So
I'm working on that.
But you take 45 minutes to give the quick basis. I'm gonna give a quick basis.
It's a good 45 minutes.
No, listen. All right. The idea of the show, it revolves around something called adolescent syndrome. It's not a real thing, And even in the show, it's technically not a real thing until stuff that is revealed later. But again, we're not going to get into any heavy spoilers. But the idea is that based on growing insecurities, or this is exactly how they say it, based on growing insecurities within a child or perception on the world, phenomena can happen. And that's all you get in regards to explaining what this looming power that's fucking up it fucks up some of these people's lives. And it's,
well, in essence, they fuck up their lives.
Well, yeah, kind of. And the
I did tell them that it's about a guy who gets embroiled in this weird psionic activity with people.
No, listen.
That was fairly quickly.
Okay. So this happens, the main character, it happens to him, and he figures out how to help other people that are going through this issue. And
well, he doesn't even figure out how to help them. He just decides to help them.
Yeah, he does help because he was helped. I think it's weird with the show because I feel like a lot of the time it's the way that the power or this overall like rule that they kind of establish. It's not even really a rule, but this looming force that causes these things to happen. If you're looking for world building, you will not get it here because they don't put time into it. And whether it was an intentional or not, it could make the story feel kind of almost disjointed
shallow.
In a way. Yeah, or shallow. But I still think that when I look at it and I watch the show, it feels more like we're kind of dealing with the perspective that the characters have, which is one that is uninformed. Like this main character, he's constantly, a lot of the show you surmise. You think like, how could this have happened? And then it's up to you to decide whether or not how this happened, and you form your headcanon around that. If that's something you're willing to do, because the show will not do it for you. A lot of it is things will happen and you're like, I wonder how that happened or how that came to be. And a lot of times this power works outside of the understanding of these characters, the understanding of you, because you do not see a lot of what makes this thing tick. And that's the biggest thing, and that kind of leads to a lot of the problems that Shawn has, because that's the type of viewer he is. He wants to have explanation at least presented even if it's not directly said to you, but in a way where you can still figure it out. But we're not given all the clues here in this show. They don't even give you a third of all the clues here in this show, and a lot of it is led by the characters and they're writing the dialogue that they have and stuff like that. So
and it's not they could say it's intentional, but it's a flaw. Like, you don't have to know what's going on in the show. A show can be written in such a way that you only know what the characters know, and that's fine. But there's a way to do that where you realize that is the intention and you are satisfied with that. They've done that in other shows, and I had no problem with it. But in this one, don't pretend to give me an explanation. Give me a half-assed explanation. The explanation does not actually make any sense in the way that you use it. And then just leave it at that, because that's a cop-out. But the good part is the characters don't always feel real, but they always feel good. Like, you do like the characters. You are interested in the characters. But the thing that I don't understand is that human nature is not something that is present in this show. Things that a human being would unequivocally question. Without they would absolutely question. They would question to the point of obsession. They do not. They don't question anything in the show. They ask just enough questions to get from point A to point B, or to get into and then out of the mess, and then they're done. They just are completely content to move on with their lives. So you cannot watch this as something that is grounded in reality. You have to watch this as kind of like a series of fairy tales existing in one universe that they do not tell you about the universe. It really plays more like that, like a modern Grimm's fairy tale. They play around with quantum physics a lot, but they barely tell you anything about it. Like, there's so many problems with this show, and yet Kyle and I will both tell you we really do enjoy it. We like the characters. We like what happens. We want to see what happens. and I'm probably bothered by it a little bit more than he is, but when a character does go through one of these strange psionic, temporal, subjective recognitions of self clusterfucks, after it's over, they barely ever talk about it again, or they talk about it like, "Hey, you remember that time that I lost my shoe and it ended up being in that closet?" Like, that's the tone of voice that they talk about, like having personalities split into 20, or disappearing for 6 months, or what, or being switching bodies with a random stranger. Like, it's extremely casual. Everything, everything in this show is casual. It's all treated casually. It's just accepted. It's very strange to see that, and I don't really understand it. And you do see that to varying degrees in a lot of anime and manga. I don't know why. I really don't think that's just a distinctly Japanese thing. I just don't understand it. I don't think it's strong storytelling. But the show, regardless of all of that, it's really fun. It's like Monogatari Light. Like, if you wanted to watch Monogatari and get into that whole sprawling series,
yeah, dude,
and try and endure the ups and downs it has with the Chechi moments, and Monogatari it's a piece of brilliance, all of it. It really is. But if you want to get a taste of Monogatari without diving into that, because if you dive in, you won't come back out, because it takes treatises and theses and reading tons of websites and ideas on what was meant during what arc and what this means and what that means. You really don't have to worry about all that in this show. Even if you don't understand what happened, just enjoy the characters, enjoy their interactions, and realize it's a fairy tale, and it's perfect. It's really nice. And even with all the flaws, I know that it sounds like it's just really weird. It is really weird, but I really like the main character. I love, 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 love the dialogue. If you took Kevin Smith's View Askew Universe movies, like the Jay and Silent Bob stuff, or Zack and Miri Make a Porno, and you tone the adult potty humor out of it, and you keep the heart that's in each movie, and you take that level of dialogue writing, it's kind of like that. It's very snappy. All of the dialogue fits together very well. Everyone is intelligent. There's nobody that's stupid in this show. Everyone is highly intelligent. It puzzles me that they never question anything. But I don't know. It's got a lot of charm. The dialogue's really good. The music's really good. The supernatural fairy tale occurrences that happen to each person is really interesting. And there's a lot of, oh, fuck me moments. And I mean, literally, Kyle and I must have said it like 18 times a piece, at different moments. So I liked it. I definitely suggest people watch it. And I think if you are somebody that doesn't ask a lot of questions of what you watch and just immediately accept things whether you understand them or don't, and there are a lot of people that do that, I think you would enjoy it. If you're a fan of shoujo, kind of thriller romances and mystery romances, I think you'll enjoy it. And I absolutely do think that this show is geared, probably a good portion, more. I think it is geared more toward female than male in some ways. I think there's a strong shoujo element to this, even if it's not a shoujo show. I think that it reminds me of some of those shoujo that are written by men who think they know what a female wants, but it's got some fairly strong elements that lean heavily more toward a female perspective than a male perspective, even though the story tends to be told from a male perspective.
Okay.
But I got all lost on a tangent there. I give it 3.5 Laplace Demons out of 5. I think it's a really good watch. I think it's easier for a larger audience to enjoy the majority of it, but they do have to get past those first 3 stories that go too heavily into bullshit explanations that don't hold water. But the characters make it worth it, and I think in anime your characters really have to be good,
And even though there's a lot of reality breaking issues in the show, I think that it's still a very fun watch, and it's entertaining. And Kyle and I had a good time watching it. So
Yeah, definitely. I don't share the same sentiment as Shawn, but I'm also not as analytical as a viewer. So there were moments I would agree where I would ask like, "Oh, how did this come to be?" And thinking back, a lot of what you would have to guess, a lot of it would be like, okay, so you're presented a problem. They go through the problem. The character always goes to a scientific friend, and she gives an idea of that. Oh, hey, this kind of is like something that happens in psychology, or something that is some kind of like theoretical
science.
some kind of theoretical science, something like that. And it falls in line with this. This is kind of like this. I never once thought the show was trying to directly explain to me why the universe worked the way it was, because I never felt like because the show never made the power or reasoning behind adolescent syndrome super tangible. Like, a lot of the times they didn't even show the power in action. A lot of it happened off screen besides like one moment. And for the most part, it was always like this supernatural event. So I never, from the beginning, when I went into the world, I never expected it to exist on like a plane of reality. I always thought of it as like, these are kind of like stories of these strange occurrences. And I understand what your sentiment, Shawn, and how you came to this, and I feel like your issues are like real, like that they exist. It's just, I feel like it's a little bit, I don't know. I feel like it's trying to look too much into a show that doesn't have what's that there. Like, it wasn't attempting to do that. But then again, that all comes down to how you kind of internalize that information. So it really comes down to
you should try to tell a story about tennis without including the rules of tennis, though. Or let's put it this way: if you're going to tell a tennis story, and then you're going to bring in some of the rules, you can't just fictionally make up the rest. Like, you need to create a grounding and a good foundation and build from that foundation. And I think by even attempting to come up with a scientific explanation, or to include a pseudoscience by playing in there and then not really following through, it creates a problem for the show that just didn't even have to be there. And that's the part that I think frustrates me the most, is because by creating these giant logical holes that you didn't even have to, I mean, you made the groundwork for there to be holes in, which wasn't necessary. Like, if they had left it alone or just put a little bit more thought into it, it would have made more sense. But it seems like they kind of half-assed it, and that's the part that bothers me, because none of that was even necessary.
I would have
you can create a show like that, and you don't have to it doesn't have to be Monogatari, man. You don't have to go that hardcore into philosophy and religion and, metaphorical sciences and all that shit. Like, that's just not something you have to do. It's and in this show, they didn't even have to go that deep to give things a believable in-universe feel, and to kind of give it lip service and throw some of that out there and not really do it well is just very frustrating, because it makes the product weaker overall than it was previously. I don't think they needed to do that.
Oh, yeah, I understand that, but
it draws enough from it to make it bad, because I really like it. But it's just very frustrating for somebody like me, because don't give me a piece of candy if you're not going to give me a whole piece of candy.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to the person and how they internalize the information presented in the show. Because again, like, you can, and I think a lot of the audience already understands this, but you are, again, I'm trying to say it in a nice way, but you're very analytical. So a lot of it is stuff in a
nice way. You're trying to say something terrible and put some
the way you internalize your information is always into it's always, you want as much in the realms of world building to make whatever it is feel that it can work in the rules that the world establishes, and that's completely fine.
Correct.
And all these reviews are fucking opinions. It's the whole point. We're giving our opinions on the shows, but I think a lot of it comes down to how you process the information that the show is putting out will be how that show resonates with you, because someone can watch this, and if they aren't asking those questions and they're, again, taking the story for how it is, it won't have those flaws to them because it's not how they're understanding that information. So I don't know. I didn't have anywhere near as many issues with this show because that was kind of how I started it with. Like after the first arc, the way it revolved itself, I was like, oh, it's going to be kind of like this. We're not really going to get a lot of information in the show. And from there on out, I viewed it in that regard, and I didn't really have any major issues in that.
Yeah, if you just accept it as something that's happening and there is no rhyme or reason to it, it's a lot easier. But
yeah,
they also then tell you that there is a rhyme or reason to it, and that then you start to try and look at what the rhyme or reason was. But I think if you just ignore that element, and when they do try and tell you certain, like, I think it's fine. Like I said, I prefaced it by saying if you're somebody that looks at these types of things, which you probably aren't, this is the issue that I found. But outside of that, I thought the characters were really nice and the stories were charming.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. All right.
Anyway, finish your opinion.
That's about all I have to say, really. I didn't really. This is a sad show, and it has some moments that I cried in the show too. But it doesn't take a lot. I cried about zombie idols, so it doesn't take a lot to get me misty. But I feel like I think a lot of what drives the strong moments of the shows, as I would agree with Shawn, are the characters. The characters in themselves and their interactions with one another. That's where the writing excels and is very good. Maybe some of their motivations, although I like that with these characters, especially one of the characters that they don't actually spend a lot of time to, but I thought she was a strong character, is little sister. And I like that her quirks work around into how she is when you actually finally learn about what happened to her and when she dealt with adolescent syndrome. I always liked that there was a constant sense of like looming mystery, and to the degree where it's dangerous, like people being hospitalized and shit, even though we never receive, again, a super valid explanation. Like it could, I'm sure, although all the problems always came to him, I'm not sure, it'd be a guess, but this power probably existed outside of him as well. And other people that there's probably really worse cases of this where people just straight disappearing because no one helped them. And then that person's just fucking gone. They're gone forever kind of thing.
Yeah. It's not a power. I'd say it's more of a natural phenomena that happens due to the weakness in the human mind. That's the only
I would agree.
I got for sure.
I would agree until we saw what happened that one time. That kind of threw us for a loop. That when that happened, I'm like, this has to be.
You mean with the noise?
No, with the with the noise, with the swap. That's what I'll call it, the swap.
Well, I mean, an unnatural phenomenon that happens
due
to
that shit
in the human mind, because they all happen because of people being weak somehow in their mental faculties.
Yeah, so it could be kind of like again,
in
we
various
don't know.
types, but like that's the one thing that I think is a definite is each person's trial that they happen to go through is something that they at least assisted in creating for themselves.
Yeah.
And I have no fucking idea how that dipshit ends up at the epicenter of it, but I love him for it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Thank God for that weirdo.
Yeah. God, I feel for him, dude.
I really don't think we've discovered I think that he has an ongoing one. I think the chess thing is just the tip of the iceberg, because otherwise they've got a film coming out, and the film isn't going to be a rehash. It's supposed to finish off the series. So, and there's still a few elements they haven't told us yet. So I think that it's going to close things out in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see what happens. And yeah, it looks like there's a movie coming out this summer to finish off the series. It's going to be like a closing chapter. There may be another one, but right now they've only got plans for one. They're going to see how that goes.
Cool. All right, so I would give this four pretty ladies dressed up as bunny girls out of 5. How about that?
Hell yeah, best girl.
Yeah, man.
She's awesome.
That show fucked me up. I still think about the one event that kind of screwed me up every once in a while. When I think back of the shows, what happens. This is why it's very hard to rewatch it. I'm rewatching it with my sister Caitlyn, and just knowing what's coming down the bend really bothers me like immensely. But we'll leave it at that. So, good shows overall.
You know,
excited
you'd be less bothered if they gave you a concrete explanation.
I would not be less bothered because it still fucking happens no matter what. Like that, I'd really try not to spoil anything. At least you'd
feel better because you would know what the actual result was.
Bro, the ending is still good, and I still don't feel better. Like, technically, what happened was not really that bad, but just because it happened, it fucked me. And that
it feels like it was bad to me. Like, I feel terrible about it.
I mean, I'm not happy about it, but the end result isn't life-changing in regards to relatively, but isn't, like, especially since the way the main character ends up resolving that situation, like, it wasn't. It's really hard to talk about this without spoiling anything. Like, I was trying to think of adjectives.
I'm sorry, we'll move on. That was kind of a trap.
Yeah. So 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. Adorable sisters. All right, let's move on to our news. We've got 2 news segments. Nothing really has happened this week, video game related, so we're still waiting for something interesting to talk about. But we have some two interesting articles I stumbled upon. First one, Bruce Campbell is going to reboot Ripley's Believe It or Not, and that has me excited for both Bruce Campbell, and I loved Ripley's Believe It or Not when it was on TV.
Show?
Yeah. So
I did not.
You didn't like Ripley's Believe It or Not?
No, I thought it was boring.
I thought they were cool.
Wow, you were like, I could hear the smile on your face. You're like, and they're gonna reboot Ripley's Believe It or Not. You know, slapped lips. And
then again, I was like 5, so
arm.
I don't know. I didn't watch it as an adult. But so we have a cult movie star and character actor Bruce Campbell will be rebooting the TV series Ripley's Believe It or Not for the Travel Channel. The channel's ordered 10 episodes, 1 hour each, and they will be hosted by Campbell. He's also serving as executive producer. Apparently, the location for the thing will be shot at the Ripley Warehouse in Florida. And as always, they'll be telling astonishing, real, and one-of-a-kind stories from around the globe. We have it set to premiere in summer of 2019, and it marks the 100-year anniversary of the Ripley's Believe It or Not brand. So
I think the warehouse is in North Florida near St. Augustine.
Isn't that the one that's like upside down? Like the whole building's upside
No,
down?
the upside down one's in Orlando.
Oh, fuck. What's the warehouse look like? Does it look anything special?
Actually, the upside down one is a science center. The Ripley's building is tilted. The one in St. Augustine is the first one.
Okay.
That was the first Believe It or Not museum, but I think that's where the warehouse is too. The St. Augustine one is nice. I like that one. That one's my favorite because it's in this really old house.
Yeah, I always liked...
a lot of work done on it, but
it might have been me looking at it through like a childlike eye, but the idea of like those, again, like odd or super cool stories and shit like that, I always thought was interesting. I felt like I was walking through a giant like Guinness World Records book, but like it was like a museum. So I always thought that was cool.
I like parts of it. It was just the time slot. It came on at like 7 or 6 before any good shows came on. And you kind of had to sit there and wait through all this like unsolved mystery, Ripley's Believe It or Not stuff. And then that awful show with Dean Cain and that other trashy news show. And they would all come on, and I think there was another one that was like a candid camera.
I have no idea what the fuck.
I just did not like. I hate pre primetime television.
Okay.
And that was pre primetime television.
Okay.
And it drove me fucking bananas. But I don't think there was anything wrong with the show. It's just hokey. Okay. I think is a perfect word.
All right, dude. I mean, again, looking
I'm not
at
trying
it
to
through.
poke a hole in your
No.
excitement,
I
man.
even
Fuck,
said
I like hokey shit too.
I even said it
not
was
that
like
one.
it was like through a childlike eye, so I could not really tell if I would enjoy it today, but I did enjoy it back then. All
I
right,
think Dean Cain hosted it, didn't he?
I have no idea. I suck ass with
Was
names,
it Dean?
so you're talking to the wrong person. Oh, but sorry. Jack Black starts a gaming channel. He started a gaming channel on YouTube called.
I thought that was a joke.
No, that's legit. Called Jablinski Games. It started on December 21st and took a single week for it to hit 1 million subs, and after 10 days, channel was up to 2.5 million. Jack Black said that Jablinski Games will be bigger than Ninja and PewDiePie, and he plans to upload new videos every Friday, in addition to games. The videos will focus on food and life. His second video, released December 25th, was posted in celebration of the game reaching 1 million subscribers. So, we don't really know exactly what he will be doing because we haven't seen too much of it yet. Videos are kind of in the Jack Black style. I love this man. He's cool. He even bought PewDiePie's chair for the video, which I thought was interesting.
I saw him tilt it back and make the joke.
Yeah,
that meme is like a year old now or some shit.
Yeah, we also know that Jack Black isn't like he's been in video games before. He was in Brutal Legend. He also voiced a character in was that like kind of like narrative driven Double Fine game? Broken Age. He voiced a character in Broken Age too. Yeah.
Double Fine games. Because it's Tim Schafer and he loves Tim Schafer.
Yeah, so that's interesting. If you guys have not heard about that, again, slim pickings. Slim pickings.
Wasn't Broken Age the one with the two kids?
Yeah.
Like the one guy in the future or something, and the other girl, I don't even remember.
You're thinking about the right thing. That's
right.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I beat it. It wasn't memorable. It was interesting. There's a few difficult parts, but for the most part, it was
like a point and click, wasn't it?
The whole thing in like 2 days.
It's a point and click, wasn't it? Kind of.
Well, sort of. I mean, you controlled your character, if I remember correctly. I don't think it was just point and click. Like you could walk around and shit.
Okay.
I think, but it might have been just pointing. I don't fucking honestly. I remember the set pieces, and I seem to remember some minor platforming-y type stuff. I think you actually did walk around. I don't think it was just pointing and clicking, but it might have been.
Okay.
I know you would select a room and go. I don't like. I remember, like I said, I barely remember. I don't remember playing it. I remember it happening. That's all I've got for you. And it had some charming parts and some insane parts, and it's nothing that I remember vibrantly enough to suggest to anyone. Like
okay.
I could definitely think of some better adventure games than that one, but it's short and it was free, so.
Oh, there you go. That's all it takes. All right, so let's move on to our main topic. We had talked about it a bit earlier.
Tell you the end. I'll say one more thing about it. I do remember that the ending did not reach the potential of the beginning of the game.
Okay, good to know. I'll probably never play it. I just know that he voiced one of the characters in it. So, this kind of stemmed from a conversation we had with one of our friends, which kind of also stemmed from something that everyone relatively knows about, which are like Twitch thoughts, which are basically girls that go on Twitch. Now we are talking about
and guys.
Oh yeah, guys do it too. Should Twitch remain a gaming platform, right? So we don't really know of the intention of its inception, but we know that it quickly developed into a gaming streaming site. And still a huge majority of the viewers on the channel are gaming related. But as the years have passed, we have seen kind of a movement into like multimedia kind of things. So, because the biggest thing of Twitch, a lot of times people do go to see the game, but a lot of the retaining viewers who stay there, the idea is that you are there for the character, the person playing the game, their friend group. You find them funny, you find them charismatic, you find them interesting, or they're just really fucking good at the game. A lot of the time you are there for the person playing the game and then that live interaction with that person relatively, it depends on whoever you're watching, because those people won't even know you exist if they have like 100,000 viewers watching them or whatever. But it's kind of been a slow shift, very small and slow shift into kind of multimedia things. You can go on, so you can watch people paint, you can watch people draw, you can watch people sit on their porch with their shirt off, drinking a beer and talking about life. You can
cooking, dancing, aerobics, non-nude pole dancing,
masturbating.
Well, yeah, that's not exactly approved, but
yeah, it happens. It happens.
Well, Nick got him kicked off. He reported it.
Nice. That man's doing the community a favor.
Yeah, I'm not a Twitch veteran, but I know that when it first came out, it was advertised and word of mouth as it was the method that it was for. It was, you know, because before that it was all YouTube and it was all Let's Plays, and then the whole streaming bit poured out of that, and now there's this like whole new thing where people would play games live, and people could make comments while they were doing it, and the comments would come up, I guess originally on the right side of the screen, was it? And now it's below? No, it's still the right side. And I remember seeing videos of YouTube, PewDiePie doing Twitch streams and stuff. And it was supposed to be, at least as far as I understood it, the intent was to create a platform for gamers to be able to do live Let's Plays on. And it's just kind of grown organically from there into something, I think, a bit deeper. Well, not even a bit deeper, a lot deeper. But it's also given, like you said, an opportunity for people to stream other activities. And the people who grew up on Twitch, or came up with Twitch, I should say, because it's not that fucking old, as a gaming platform, a lot of them, a good contingent of them, feel a lot of animosity towards all this non-gaming stuff, and they feel like it should be on another platform.
Yeah.
Especially the more sexually oriented stuff, which still has its place. They just don't believe it is on that website.
Yeah. I have a little history about Twitch. It originally started as Justin.tv, which I actually watched some people play back in the day. There was a group I followed called 4Player Podcast or something, and they actually streamed on Justin TV. I'm like, what the fuck is this? But it's like live. It blew my mind as a kid. But it was launched in 2007 by Justin Kahn and Emmett Shear, and the site was divided from launch into several content categories. But the gaming one was the one that had grown especially fast and became the most popular content on the site. The company decided to spin off the gaming content as Twitch.tv, inspired by the term Twitch gameplay. It launched officially in beta June 6th of 2011, and since then, Twitch has attracted more than 35 million unique visitors a month. Twitch had about 80 employees in 2013, which increased to 100 by December. So they make a shitload of money. Amazon owes them, blah, 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 all stuff you know. But so as Shawn did say, Twitch was a spin-off of Justin TV that had a gaming focus. Obviously, if you're looking at the name Twitch Gameplay, which refers to Twitch shooters, which are basically fast-paced shooters. Anything from, usually, at least what I inspire Twitch Gameplay with, there's also a lot of movement involved, like Quake and stuff like that.
Real.
Because it works with testing your response time, but a lot of people believe that most first-person shooters usually tend to be a Twitch shooter because they challenge your response time. I've always just thought of them as the ones that also kind of have a bit of mobility, but it's anything.
No, I think you're closer to accurate, man. Because the Twitch thing started with Unreal and Quake 3 and spilled out from there, and those games play very, very different from Modern Warfare or from Halo, and I don't think that those are Twitch. Twitch games move a lot faster. They're a lot more reflex based than Halo and shit like that.
Yeah,
they don't feel the same. They don't feel like Destiny does. They move faster. It's all about split second. Everything is split second. Like there's no in between, and that's just not the same when you're playing even PvP, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
There's nothing about any of the first-person shooters that we have played together that is anything like those games. The closest game would be the recent Doom.
Yeah, the recent Doom.
I don't know if that had a. Did that have a?
It had
PvP?
multiplayer. Yeah, it did. It was Twitch inspired.
Yeah, that would be the. Did it play like the game did? Because the actual gameplay of Doom itself was twitchy.
Yeah, just think of that, but with a bunch of people. Like usually, it's fast gameplay. Usually a quick TTK, and there's a focus on movement and mobility, and there's always a map that has item placement that you kind of have to learn for the most part. You learn where engagements happen, you learn where items are located on the map, and that's usually like the basis of Twitch gameplay. Stuff like Quake, stuff like Unreal Tournament, and stuff like that. They kind of fall into that category. So, but going back to Twitch, now I personally, again, when I see that it's kind of spun off into more of, you're not really just there for the game, you're there to watch people play, because you find more attachment to the person playing the game than the game itself. I really don't have an issue with these kind of just chatting / IRL streams, because a lot of the time you're there, you want to know more about this person's life, whoever they are, for whatever topic, whether it's to see the cleavage of a woman or to see what this dude's doing this day because you think he's funny and you enjoy what he does. As long as it's not personally breaking the rules of Twitch itself, like really what can we say? As long as a woman's not showing a nipple on stream, I'm fine with it. Even some guy nipples, they get me going a little bit. So
even guys technically aren't supposed to be showing nipples on there. It's not super duper enforced, but
you're
they
technically
want you wearing casual wear unless you're like outdoors at the beach or something, and then you're allowed to wear swimwear.
Yeah,
but how far it goes is up to Twitch.
Yeah, if they choose to enforce it or not, which I think them keeping it to both genders is a good idea, especially since if you are an affiliate with Twitch, you are a Twitch employee, for lack of a better term, because you are receiving money from them. You have to abide by their rules. Now, again, whether or not they enforce it or not, although I think they should, if a man gets reported because he's shirtless playing a game and they say you can't be shirtless playing a game, bada boom, you're not allowed to be shirtless playing a game. Just don't do it. But
the thing is there's nothing wrong. The reason why they're doing this is because Twitch doesn't age gate.
Yes.
There are warnings where you say like, yes, I'm this old or whatever.
Yeah, they literally
require
it's
you to
just
prove
like
your age.
It literally says the stream's intended for a mature audience, and you can just say okay and you're in. You can be a baby and do it by accident, and then boom, you have a woman pole dancing with her boobies flapping all over the place and stuff like that.
Or like a guy doing the helicopter with his dick, because there's plenty of guys on there that very often sex appeal too. But it's so I get that, but I think that they spun it off to be game centric, and that's fine. But there's nothing wrong with having separate channels, and so far they've kept it all separate. There's one for gaming and one for chatting and so on.
Yeah.
So if as long as it's clear what area you're wandering into, and I really don't. I think it's great. I think if you want to watch a hot guy or a hot chick play video games or have a conversation, that's cool. If you want to do aerobics, and there's somebody twitching, a live stream of aerobics, and you want to, I really don't understand why people get so frustrated. Hell, I'm not the kind of person that gets ugly about even sexual content being in front of me, because I'm really not the kind of person that believes sexual content should be strong. I don't know. I think I'm kind of hesitant to censor that kind of thing. I think that it should be out there. I just think it should be gated. I don't think we should be censoring much of anything. I really hate censorship. But I obviously don't want little kids stumbling onto a woman fist fucking herself, or a guy sitting on a fucking cactus-shaped ass dildo. Like I would rather that not be there, for them to stumble onto. But I don't have a problem with it being out there.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I don't think Twitch is ever going to be willing to adopt that type of content to their site.
No, it should not be a home for pornography or extreme violence. I don't think that's appropriate. But I like the fact that there is a wide variety of things out there on the platform.
So now, when it regards to say if a woman or a man does get on and they are playing a game, right? But say like the game is in the small corner and a lot of what they're pushing on their stream is sex appeal. Now, was Twitch in the right to tell people that they cannot do that to make money? What do you think?
We mean sex appeal. How do you define sex appeal, man?
Well, I don't know, like a woman.
To who? This is the part that I've got a problem with, and that is like Twitch gets to decide what is sexy and what is not.
Yeah.
So, what if you're somebody who just has a figure that it is impossible to not notice, and you really do have to go out of your way to buy ugly clothes to hide the fact that you have them, breasts or a six pack or
I think it comes down because if you look at the streams that were promoting that kind of idea, it's a lot of it if they're playing a game, but again, the game is maybe a 15th of the size of the stream, where the rest of it is their entire body, or like, because the thing is,
but what's really wrong with that?
Well, I think it comes down to like the same thing with the age gating, right? Because they don't want kids seeing the stuff. But now, if it's just a woman sitting there in a chair and she's 80% of the screen, that's fine. But if she's getting to the point where it's like showing off like assets of the body or stuff like that, or same thing with the man, like being shirtless, like it's more of the idea.
How extreme it is.
It's more more of the idea that if you're streaming a game, how much of that is necessary, right? Especially in a site where they don't age gate anything, right? How much of you being there is necessary? And it's Twitch. They're a company.
Well, I'd put it like this. As long as it fits terms of service, you're fine. If you're wearing casual clothing and it just so happens to be sexy, Twitch can't fucking touch you.
Well, yeah, that's why TOS exists, and that's why there still are some technical booby streamers out there. They still exist to a degree, because they kind of just adopted the way they do it. They still, to a point, are more of making the focus on. It sounds bad the way I say it, but they're more making the focus on their body than they are the game that they are playing, or them even as a person, compared to like the alternative, which is just playing the game and being overall, I don't know, charismatic or something like that. But again,
I think if we were a more open society, you would see more of that being a category and people just being able to search for it. You won't find like sexy streaming. You'll just find streaming, or sexy gaming and then gaming, because sexy is still taboo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's still not appropriate, and advertisers don't like it. You can go to Europe and have a fucking soap advertisement before a primetime family TV show that has tits and ass in it. But
hell yeah, I'm moving to Europe.
Fucking soap. Nobody gets turned on by the soap advertisement.
Hey,
as a matter of fact,
watch who you're talking about. That's my kink.
That's cool. That's fine. But over here, I just can't wrap my head around it. It's such a big deal. And so sexuality, which is a normal, healthy part of existence, and like it or not, it is involved in childhood, and it is especially involved in adolescence. It exists. It is in their world. You cannot avoid educating them on it. They're going to run across it. So we try and pretend it's not there and hide it. And whereas I don't think pornography and sleazy things, whatever that may mean, should be out there all the time on every billboard cover. On the same note, I really don't think that cracking down on what is essentially a piece of each and every human being is effective.
Yeah.
You're always going to have stuff leaking through the cracks, and then if somebody exhibits any of these things, then we look down on them. It's a whole other fucking topic, but I think that Twitch is actually doing an okay job at it. There's nothing wrong with being sexy on there, and they're not banning people for being sexy. It's just they're banning people who are pole dancing for views, or who are, I mean, specifically stripping pole dancing. They're banning people that are masturbating on there. They're banning people whose content is exclusively sexual. And that I get. And plus, they own the fucking things. They've
Yeah, they
got the
can
right
do
to
whatever
it.
the hell they want. Yeah, and I feel
But
like
I don't think
feel-
there's anything wrong with being a titty streamer as long as your titties aren't out.
I
As
feel
long
like
as there's a game on screen or you're
I feel it's
talking.
interesting
I mean,
because a lot of that whole act, all that events and all that, everything that came down and how Twitch handled it, a lot of it I felt was almost reactionary in a sense, because
absolutely.
especially with a lot of times censorship in a degree is reactionary, because you let it out there and people are like, oh, I'm not okay with that. And then we're like, well, shit, we can't have it out there because companies are trying to uphold their branding. So a lot of the time, I think, again, it's like a product of its own environment. You see adults having issues with their kids seeing half of a boob on TV. So in order for those adults to keep spending money because they trust in that company, the company says, okay, we'll pull back the half the boob and make it no boob. And then from no boob, then give it a few years. And then now we are a dystopian society where boob is not allowed. And then if no boob, then why? So. Oh my God.
It's worrisome. I don't really know sometimes how to put it into words why it's worrisome. But I guess I look at the grand picture, and I think the more narrow your worldview is, the easier it is to find intimidation or fear or evils in something. You know, when I was growing up, I thought Slayer was evil because they had satanic lyrics and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I became older and I realized that they're not evil. They're just
edgy.
They're just overrated. You know, they're all atheists. They don't believe in God or the devil, but they knew if they said devil shit, they would get attention. So they constantly shoved Satan as this metaphor, but it's also there just to help them sell albums because edgy people are going to want to be edgy, you know?
Yeah.
And while they're halfway decent at playing thrash metal, their vocalist is mostly trash. Don't at me. And I've never been impressed by them whatsoever. So as I got older, I realized, hey, they're not evil. They're just not nearly as great as people make them out to be, and there's better bands for me to pay attention to. And my personal faith and my personal beliefs and whatever I may or may not subscribe to, that's not something that I use as an excuse to run around declaring what is good and evil in the world. I just decide things for me. So I don't lead campaigns to wreck something out there because I think it's bad. I just decide whether I'm going to allow it into my life or not. So I'm not the kind of person to raise a shit show just because I'm offended by something.
Because of half boob.
But there are people out there, you know, because when I was a kid, definitely, like, Slayer was offensive to me because I thought that kind of material was offensive. Now I just realize it's silly and stupid. It's not really, that subject matter really isn't something. Like, if the devil is a thing, and I personally believe that Lucifer is a terrifying thing, whether I believe that the devil is real or not is irrelevant to the conversation. But if I find something to be truly evil, then I obviously don't want to consume it. There are people out there that believe that sexuality is this horrible, evil thing that shouldn't be put out in front of their faces, and they should be able to choose anytime that sexuality is in their world. I don't think that anybody really, you have the right to choose what's in your home, but since sexuality is a part of you that you quite literally cannot control, it will always be there. You can't turn it off in life. I can turn off music. You know, I'm not going to try and turn your music off, but I can sure as fuck turn mine off. But I'm not going to go out into the world and try and turn someone else's music off. And I just don't understand the mindset of, I am going to control everything that is out there so that the world is my definition of sanitary, when the person next to you might define sanitary by a different term.
Yeah. What if I want half boob all over the place?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I just think that half boob is a metaphor for just about anything that's out there. Like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
A little bit like that conversation we had about a year ago. Where do you draw the line? And I think that Twitch does okay. I really didn't agree with the wipeout that they did. What was it, like 6 months ago, where they went and just busted a shitload of them? Because I really don't think everything that they were all doing was bad. But I do understand when you're doing softcore strip shows with a fucking Nintendo controller in your hand, but you're holding your arms together and rubbing, doing the super cleavage thing, or that one dude that kept doing the slow bending motion, etc. Yeah, I get it. All right. But why don't you warn them and tell them to stop first? Or create a 3-strike policy? Because when they wiped all those channels, they just deleted them. If I remember correctly, like everyone just go wipe off. Or else, why don't you do this? Why don't you spin off and create a channel that's just adult gaming, where there is no rules except for like don't murder people and no fucking on camera, and you can curse all you want, or you can dress as sexy as you want, no nudity, and then that's there, and Twitch can be sanitized.
Yeah. But it's another thing. It's weird because how do you properly age gate on the internet without also being incredibly annoying to newcomers? Because the idea is like
you'll just have to be annoying.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a way. I mean, if you do that thing where like with the app where it can scan your ID.
Yeah, put in your driver license information for me, please. See how old you are.
Well, they've got a program that'll scan the ID and determine that it's valid without actually putting it in front of anyone's face. Like it doesn't like I don't remember what it looks for. It looks for something in the
to finalize the conversation on the original question. We'll ask it one more time, and we'll both give our answers real quick, and then we'll probably call it an episode. But again, as I said, so should Twitch remain purely a gaming platform, Shawn?
No.
Okay. Anything to elaborate?
No, not at all. I don't see any reason why. Okay. They're able to gain a larger audience. It's a better business model when you've got, more content that different people can watch. If I want to do a show where I can show cooking or whatever, no. It's become what Justin TV was before, just a more advanced version of it. And I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I don't think it's detracting from gaming like Hector and Nick do. I don't think it's making it harder for a respectful or a non-sexy gamer to do their content. I don't think it's diluting the pool. I just don't feel that way. I think that it's perfectly fine. If people want to watch that, they're going to look for it. And if people want to watch something a little bit more credible, they're going to look for that. I've heard you, and I've heard Hector, and I've heard Nick talk about Twitch and watching different people's channels and what you enjoy. And everything that I have heard backs up what I just said. Like, you look for a specific type of content and you float around and just kind of dick off on Twitch until you find it. Or you'll look into suggested things, or you will see it when they do that hosted doodad, you'll see something interesting and you'll watch that. I don't think having more content would prevent you from finding what you're looking for. I think it just opens up the opportunity to see more content.
I would agree. I wonder if they would ever change their name, like either back to Justin TV or to something else. Because Twitch is such a big name now, and everyone goes to it, and a lot of people know. It's a brand, man. Yeah, that'd be interesting. But I mean, it's only slightly related now. Twitch is just Twitch, and so it's interesting. I'm a big fan of streaming as a whole. I love the idea of live streaming, being able to directly communicate with the people that want to watch you. I always thought that was a really cool thing. I think Twitch can do whatever the fuck it really wants, and a lot of this is what we kind of like. If Twitch wanted titty streamers, if Twitch wanted titty streamers, all they have to do is change their TOS. They might get some flack for it, but ultimately it's up to them and technically Amazon as to what they end up doing.
Yeah, well, It's all, yeah, well, Amazon's a big to do with it too, because Amazon is, I mean, it's just another one of those fucking cardboard companies.
If Twitch starts to get shit for something going on, obviously Amazon will start to get shit because they're directly related. Yeah. So a lot of the time, I think a lot of these decisions mostly come from Amazon in that degree, because it's like, hey, just don't fuck up and make the parent company look bad. So there's so much like pussyfooting around when it comes to public perception of a brand, all because of the idea that all these brands are so interconnected to each other. Like, oh, hey, you can't piss off these people because they'll stop buying Coke products or whatever. And it makes, I can't imagine how stressful of a job it would be to constantly manage these things and make sure that like public perception is high and all this other shit. It's just,
you can't really blame them for playing it safe when,
definitely
that a couple of percentage points in the margin could cost the company millions or billions, and that's a lot of fucking money. And that's also your job, because if you make the wrong call and cost them that much money, then you get fired, and now how your kid's gonna eat? So we're still in the infancy. I mean, we're definitely not in the infancy of the internet. The internet's a teenager now, almost a young adult, but the advertising on the internet is at that same point. It's not perfected, it's not refined, and it hasn't gone batshit yet like it's done on every other platform. I mean, I think it's close, but I don't think we've seen it polished yet. I think it's gotten better than it did back in the early 2000s, late 90s, the mid 2000s, in terms of like they have a better idea of what they're doing. But this streaming and the video content and this spawn of the creators, which are a much more approachable celebrity, has really changed the ball game on how advertising and reaching out to, audiences and demographics. It's revolutionized everything, and I still think that advertisers are still kind of figuring out different ways to exploit it or milk it or make it work even better for them. And the internet, the only thing that terrifies me about the internet is it's really difficult to tell who's watching you and what information they're taking and what they're learning about you. And ethics is not something that's got the strongest amount of enforcement there. So it's a very fuzzy place to be. So I don't blame them for playing it safe. I just think there needs to be an outlet for all forms of content, and you're seeing a lot of the adult content, and like what was that one that just kicked off all the adult stuff?
Tumblr?
Is it Tumblr that did that? Yeah,
like, they kicked off all their NSFW artists.
Yeah, like all the NSFW
90% of their fucking site.
Yeah, so that got kicked off, and you've got people who were too overtly sexual got booted out of Twitch a while back. YouTube is constantly stamping their foot. And the thing is not all of this is porn, but even if the majority of it was porn, and I've got mixed feelings on porn as it stands, but it still has a place somewhere. And it seems like any place where it was accessible or easy to get to for most people, not just children, but most people, is being chased off. And so it's going to end up back on those dark recesses of the internet like it was before, living right next to viruses and spyware and things like that, which is going to be worse for your computer. And we're kind of taking a step backwards. And I think a better idea would be to find a safe, reliable, strong way to age gate content. And once that age gating is done, you can build a respectable site that has, advertisers that don't mind advertising, on a magician that does tricks naked, or
but then
somebody
at that point,
who draws erotic fandom stuff or whatever.
But then at that point, I mean, it all comes down to the person visiting the site, and it's their choice whether or not they want to go through the age gate. I think that has to be a strong element, because a lot of the idea of the internet is the animosity of it, being able to access all this information for the most part anonymously.
You mean the anonymity of it?
Yeah, whatever. The idea is...
You said animosity,
whatever.
because that's also a big part of the internet. That's true.
Yeah, the whatever. Being able to interact with all this information without directly having your name stamped on everything that you touch is a big pull.
I mean, everything. Your name basically still is your IP address. Everything.
Yeah, but the IP address, like, if for my degree, is connected to my house, so my house touched all this shit, but I didn't personally touch all this shit. You kind of get what I'm saying? I understand that you are still.
If the FBI sat down and looked at what was touched from your IP address, they could single-handedly pick you out. Okay, this was him. This was him.
So
that was her.
We got 2 midgets fucking in a basement and curtains. I'm not too sure.
All right, well, we know the curtains was Kyle.
Yeah, these curtains are rather sus.
These
curtains are rather sus. Yeah, I mean, I just think that might put off a lot of people. But hey, if you're trying to get some jack off going, I mean,
I don't know.
At that point,
there's no, like most things, there's no easy answer. So it's just a constant balancing system now.
I like how this went.
But no, I don't necessarily feel that Hector and Nick are right, but as you said on many occasions, I understand where they're coming from.
Even that, I mean, their opinion on the idea of Twitch remaining a gaming platform. A lot of people don't like the idea of titty streamers, the idea of selling your sexuality for views and money and stuff like that. Because especially with Twitch, it's so easy to directly send money to a person to support exactly what they're doing at that time. It just rubs people the wrong way. Again, for the same idea that the idea of openly broadcasting sexuality in an area where kids have access to it and shit like that. That's still a rough topic for a lot of people. So I understand the idea.
Don't let your kids go outside. Don't let them go to the mall. Don't let them go to school.
Yeah, I understand the idea of it, but I think instead of directly censoring your child's world, I think it's a lot better just to educate them on the things that they will come across. And a lot of it is just, it's easier to tell. It's easier, like monkey see, monkey do, right? It's easier, monkey see, not monkey do. I don't know. But it's easier to sit your kid down and instead of explain to them why something is bad, it's easier just to tell them that something is in fact bad and reinforce that to the utmost degree. And then they'll just grow understanding that, hey, this is bad. I may not know why, but it's bad. But being a parent isn't exactly easy. But it also it takes a lot of strength on the parent's part to make sure that child at least understands that this is something that will be a part of their life. Like you need to sit your kid down, because if you don't, they will find out, as we've said, but they'll find out the hard way. They'll find out without a parent's support, because you already thought that you told them, hey, it's bad, don't do drugs. But instead of explaining to them that doing something like weed can lead to either dangerous situations with dangerous people, or giving them a reasoning as to why they cannot do something, works always, in my experience, always works a lot better than just outright telling them you cannot do something. And I think a lot of thing comes here with like Twitch. A lot of these parents or the people that are having outrage with this stuff, it's the idea that it's easy, instead of explaining to that fabled kid that saw a boob on Twitch, is explain to them why boobs can be detrimental. Like the idea of boobs
can be detrimental.
a single boob will ruin you for life.
Yeah, no, they need to understand what holds power and why things can be destructive, or why they should never be viewed as destructive. And it's a slow conversation that happens in pieces over several years. With my daughter, the drugs thing was a little bit easier. When we first started talking about drugs, I explained all the health implications and what happens. And then I always made things real to her by going, okay, so if I went and did cocaine and then I had a heart attack and then I died, how would you feel? And then she would tell me. And then I'm like, okay. And if you went and did that and that happened, how do you think I would feel? And we talked about that. And I was like, now, the reason why we don't do drugs is numerous. And I gave all of the reasons, and I gave examples of all, and why this was felt to be a certain way, and why this was important, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, the last thing that I mean, so she understood that it was it from a health perspective. And then once the health thing was nailed down, I went into how it destroys your personality and how it hurts your family and so on and so forth. But the very last thing I did was I sat down and I put Requiem for a Dream in front of her, pressed play, and then turned around because I didn't want to watch that fucking movie again, and worked on some shit on a laptop and waited till it was done.
I remember hearing that song for the first time, the Requiem for a Dream song. It's actually called Requiem for a Dream. I'm like, man, this is so epic. I wonder what it belongs to. And it's a movie about like
that movie
drugs and shit.
Insane. It's powerful. It's terrifying. It is a horror movie, but not in the conventional mean. The main character is addiction, and addiction beats everybody. Addiction wins. And so after the movie was done, we sat down and talked about it. And I explained to her, I'm like, this is a bunch of worst case scenarios. Okay? But all of this has happened over and over and over again to a large number of people. Now, I've never seen speed fry anyone's brain like that, but there are plenty of other drugs that can do that. And I explained to her, I'm like, now there are drugs that you do not have to be afraid of, but I would still not suggest you get involved with them until you've done an assload of research and have decided that whatever risks they do entail are worth it. My general opinion is I don't fuck with drugs at all, but there's no reason to judge somebody that does. Just be aware of what you are letting into your life and how much power that has over other people's lives if you're letting them into your life, is that kind of thing. So I think that it's important to understand power. So when it came to sexuality, I spent years introducing her to sexuality.
Yeah, this is my favorite porno.
Yeah, well, not exactly in that manner, but like it started with like I think there were Maxim. I had some Maxim magazines. I think everybody did at one point. And I remember she was like 4 or something, or 3, or 2. Fuck it, I don't remember. I know she was talking. And she picked up a Maxim magazine, and there was a chick on the front with like a big rack, and she's like, I have these. And I was like, oh, I think we need to start talking now. So we just took it in tiny steps. We figured out what was different. By the time before she was in preschool, she knew what the difference was between a male and a female. Biologically, why they were different, what their biological functions were. And even though she didn't quite understand it, she knew that there were men that liked women because they were women. There were women that liked men because they were men. And then there was a slightly smaller population that liked the same sex
fucking
thing.
Trees.
And there's also the hippie tree fuckers.
Yeah. All right.
But none of that was a mystery. So
we've been
understood.
I appreciate your story. I really do. We've been rambling on, and we were originally started as
probably more interesting than anything else we talked about.
So, if you can, I understand. Just wrap up the story, right? And then we'll go ahead and call it, because sometimes, like, we've had a lot of
really not. There's really no point in wrapping it up.
Okay, because
you're right. It's totally rambling. I'm totally jumping off the other direction. Yeah, I think understanding the power is part of that education. That was my original purpose. Moving on. Hugs and kisses and all your pink parts. And Kyle has a part for you.
Wait, you fuck. I didn't have any time to look that up. You really threw me under the bus there. You fucking cuck.
You really sounded wounded. Like, oh wait, what? No, what?
Oh my god. Wait. Oh, that one's actually a really shitty fact. I'm not gonna read that one. That one made me feel sad.
Oh yeah, no, I really want you to read it.
Nope. Fuck you. Alright. We appreciate y'all for hanging out with us for the last 2.5 hours. Let us know what you think. Do you guys think that Twitch should continue to diversify its content that it allows its creators to do? What do you think about the titty streamers? Did you like the titty streamer purge? Hate the titty streamer purge? Let us know. We'd appreciate it. Before we go, as always, I shall leave you all with a thought. The average person falls asleep in 7 minutes.